If I could make a bold prediction, it would be that in 30, 40 years from now, Charles Philibert-Thiboutot will be one of those runners that people look back on when they talk glowingly about the true characters of the sport. From being a top collegiate to stories of persuading reluctant Diamond League meet directors as a relative unknown, to some memorable national cross-country championship races with sometimes training partner Luc Boucher, to the run-up to making the Olympics in 2016, honestly, there's at least a dozen other CPT stories that really come to mind without even thinking about it. The metric miler stud who trains with his collegiate coach, Felix Lapointe, recently branched out into some bigger distances this year. First with a 28:45 10,000 meter at the BCEP Saturday Night Live series, good enough for third fastest all-time run by a Quebecois, and following that up with a mind-blowing 13:22 5,000 at the Sound Running meet in California, second fastest all-time by a Quebecois. Honestly, it really sets him up nicely for 2021, and I was very excited to have him on this week. My name is Michael Rokas, and Charles Philibert-Thiboutot is on this week's episode of the Terminal Mile. A 13:22, man, that is huge. Good enough for 10th all-time Canadian, second as far as a Quebec resident goes. Man, there's got to be a lot of stories behind that run right there. But let's just start with how did the race go? I mean, like how did you feel it went? And it was an interesting race to watch. But how was it to run?
Oh man, you know what? I think I'm finally starting to feel comfortable over the 5,000 meter distance. I feel like it's been a long learning curve for me to get accustomed to going around the track, around and around and around the track, and not lose focus. And actually, having run a 10K 2 weeks before that 5K, I was just really looking forward to racing a 5,000 meters, and I knew it was going to feel short. So yeah, it went really well, and I was in the zone for 4.6K, and with a lot to go, didn't have quite the wheels to stick with the guys at the front, but I mean we're still in December, and I don't think in my yearly plan I was ready to really go hard with a very hard last lap. So I'm just overall pretty happy with the performance.
Oh man, I think all plans have kind of gone out the window this year, anyways. But you know, I did want to ask you about that because you know you're a guy who's been on the show before, and we've talked about this sort of thing. You know, you talked about being able to turn out a 38-second last 300 meters in a race. How that was super integral to the 1500. As far as 1500 tactics go, you were someone who is so knowledgeable about what it takes, and you know, really tuning into your training and that sort of stuff. So how does that really apply to the 5,000? Were you able to find like a lot of similarities between turning out a good 1500 meter race and applying that to a good 5,000 meter race?
I actually think both races are incredibly different. And it's funny because in retrospect, after the race, talking with my coach and my strength and conditioning guy, we kind of had to talk about how a 1500 and a 5K were different and how we had to approach things differently. And, you know, like what I felt over that 5K was just that, you know, like for 4.5K, you pretty much have to like zone out and be, in like the state of mindfulness where you're trying to nail down that rhythm and stay as relaxed as possible. And then with like half a K to go, you really want to try to turn it on. Whereas in a 1500, you kind of have to be on your toes at all time because a move can happen anytime during the race. It can happen within the first 100 meters, or it can happen just at the last 100 meters. But in between that, you have to be on your toes and ready to go and ready to respond anytime in the 1500. So what I was telling my coach after the race was that I felt so in control and comfortable during the first 4.5K of the race that when it was really time to turn it on at the end. it's almost like my body couldn't really respond to like the surge in pace and how physically I should be able to handle that. So my last lap was actually just, I didn't slow down. I actually just kept the pace going, but it felt like I was slowing down because my body physically couldn't respond to the surge in pace. But to me, like that's where lies the big difference. You got to be able to really zone out and come back from that state of mindfulness and relaxation to really get going with like half a K to go. Whereas in the 1500, you really have to stay on your toes the whole race. And I think in terms of that, the two races are very different, or they make up for a very different experience.
So, you mentioned, within your training that some of the things like a big blast kick and stuff was kind of out the window this year. So where was the focus on with your training this year? Was it a lot more, thresholds and that sort of stuff?
Well, when we realized that there weren't going to be any race on the calendar in June, we just decided to really reset everything and do like a slow build up. And of course, with such a build-up comes, the strength type of work. So we've been focusing on getting good volume in, not crazy volume, but just like being solid on a weekly basis volume, and trying not to have peaks that are too high and lows that are too lows. Just like try to stay solid in that sense. And just a lot of like threshold work, 10K pace work, 5K pace work, and we also and within all of that, we also, don't get me wrong, we also did touch on a bit of speed, like doing strides and doing some 1500 meter pace work and all that kind of stuff. But I think like for a 5K where you're really running hard from the gun and you want to have the big kick at the end, I think it really needs some specific work, some specific tactical change of pace work that, at this time of the year is not really necessary, in a sense. We think that if you can just run hard from the gun and do a good time, it's pretty solid in December. But it's going to be on the schedule eventually this year to incorporate the specific type of work that is needed to go from running 62s to running 56 or 55. It's not really something that you have just by working on the base and just working on getting the bases covered, like working on basic speed and basic endurance. You really need specific work for that. So we're not quite there yet. So I'm not too worried. I'm just knocking on wood. It's been 6 months. I've been training well, and hopefully if I can stay healthy, that type of specific work will come in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of your posts, you talk about momentum and how this year you're really carrying a good momentum through. I think every athlete, every single distance runner I know has those workouts that really just makes them feel like $1,000,000, like they could knock out some PBs. Is that kind of where you really draw your strength from? Or like, what do you think your bread and butter workouts are, where you finish them and you're like, nope, I'm fit right now?
Yeah, it's funny because these type of workouts have been evolving in the last few years. If you go back to 2016, where, I don't have that. I obviously don't have that in my, in numbers, but, at the time of the Olympics, I think I would have been ready to run an 800 in like 145 or 146, but it's just that you don't get the chance to run so fast. So, that my type of bread and butter workout back then would have been, 400 off of a lot of rest, but like really fast 400, like 52, 51, or 53, or even like K repeats under 230, but then like the rest is cranked up. The rest is 5 minutes or over. Whereas right now in the fall, after having a good base in most of September and October, in November, knowing that I was going to race a 10K and a 5K, we started doing harder workouts, but like really cranking down the rest. So I've been doing like 15 times a 400 off of 45 seconds, 5 by a mile at 10K pace just off of 90 seconds, and then on top of that, you add on some 400s at the end, 61, working it down to 59 or 58 just off a minute. So the focus has really been trying to get a lot of volume in the workouts and really shorten the rest, so you don't feel like you're cheating so much, because if you're fit and you put like 3, 4, or 5 minutes between your reps, you can really cheat the speed you're going, but like if you're going to do mile repeats with only a minute or 90 seconds, you can't really go all that much above your capacities. So that's really what we've been working on in the fall. So I feel like I got really much more solid at working with short rest.
You mentioned about, just doing this whole rebuild after you knew that all these races would be canceled. I have to think that this Sound Running meet where you ran that 5,000 so well and the 10,000, they were kind of almost, surprises and stuff with a year like this. What was... How did you get into that LA meet? Because like that was super competitive to get into, and how did you decide that? Yeah, okay, so they have a 5,000 here. I want to run this 5,000.
Yeah, well, I think my coach Felix Lapointe is he really thrives off having his athletes race, and it's funny because we really had to chill for a while. And for me, not like if we think back that I started training back in late in June, not having any races for 4 months, and like nothing actually on the calendar for 4 months, like we never dealt with anything like that. Like we always had like tight schedules and stuff like that. So we really had to pinch ourselves and be accountable to one another to say, let's just chill for a couple months and then we're going to race. But when we're going to race, we're going to go pretty hard. And so knowing that we really wanted to keep the calendar empty for most of the summer and the fall, and which aligned with the opening of the Olympic qualification. So it was just kind of like, hey, you know what? December, I think you're going to be ready, and we still have a lot of time. And let's put that on the schedule and see how it goes. And the meet director was a good friend of my agent Chris, and it wasn't really a problem.
As a 1,500 guy, it really takes a couple of races to really get worked into, like a really good 1,500 meter rhythm. How are you feeling with the 5,000? Do you think with maybe a couple more shots over the next month, 2 months, you could really hit that standard?
Absolutely, I do think so. I'm getting a lot more comfortable with running hard or sustained for a long time, and it's interesting because we worked on a lot of things in the fall, but one thing that I really want to work on, knowing that we might give it a shot to qualify for the Olympics in the 5K, was that I needed to have a great focus on the task, beyond 4 laps. You know what I mean? I can't handle 4 laps mentally without any problem, but I really think that to be able to hang on to a pack and hang on to a rhythm for more than 4 minutes, you really need that kind of mental strength, but also mental work to be able to handle that. And during the fall, most of the days I would double, and the second run of the day, I would usually just go on a grass field and run in loops and run around and around and around. And I really, strength workout stuff like 10 by a K that you usually go in the trails to do, I would do those on the track. And I would just get accustomed to boring training and doing boring stuff. And I really think that I upped my game mentally in that sense. And that's what really helped me tackle the 10K and the 5K in the fall. And I think I think like that's really something that as a 1500 guy, I needed to step up in terms of capacities in order to be comfortable over the 5K. And now that I kind of feel like I have this focus nailed down, I don't think the training for 5K is going to be ever a problem anymore. And I really do think running that standard of 13:13 is in the cards for the next few months if I feel healthy.
Okay, so I mean, like from that last answer, you still called yourself a 1500 meter guy, but I mean, like you ran a 10,000, you ran a 5,000. Is this part of some sort of transition, or are you still definitely like a 1500 meter guy? Like that is Tokyo 2021. Like you want to be a 1500 meter guy?
I think there is some sort of transition happening in the sense that I'll be more of a 1500 meter and 5K guy rather than just a 1500 meter guy. And I don't think by any means I will go just 5,000 meters. I think I will always be 15 and 5K. And, you know, we've seen in the last few years guys that have been thriving on both, like the Ingebrigtsens and Stuart McSwain and all these guys that really are solid from 1500 to 5K and even to 10K. And that's kind of what we're trying to reciprocate here. And I really think that I can run really well at both. And unfortunately, you cannot double at the Olympics at those events. And honestly, right now, I cannot say that I've qualified for both. And like, I still have a lot to do and a lot of work ahead to be able to qualify for both. But the plan is to aim for that. And, you know, come June, see how all those 1500 meter races have been and all those 5K races have been in the last year, and, you know, make a game time decision. What are my best chances of a final and a good result at the Olympics? And that's kind of what we want to achieve.
So I think a lot of people know you as the 1500 meter guy, but I think for some of the super hardcore fans of running and of this show, they'll remember you running back with Laval in with cross country and university, and you know you've put in a few really honorable results in the post-collegiate cross country as well too, at championships every year. So it wasn't that surprising to see such a strong result in the 10,000 when you ran the Saturday Night Live series out in British Columbia. You weren't super happy with your 28:45 though. What was that race like? And you know, why weren't you as thrilled with it as, you know, maybe some other people who would run, you know, that fast?
Yeah, well, to put things into context, the three other contestants, Luc Purchet, Kieran Lumb, and John Gay, in that race all ran between 28:16 and 28:18. And I've been training with these guys in the weeks leading up to the race, and there was absolutely no reason for me not to be there. And, you know, what ended up happening after digging down a bit as to what happened to me in the race and how I physically felt, I just did not fuel properly. And, you know, like by 8K, I felt great. I was still in the pack with the guys. And within a lap, I went from feeling 100 to 0, and I could barely put a foot in front of the other. And basically what happened is after the race, I gave a call to Trent Stellingworth from Athletics Canada. And I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I was fit. I was not supposed to run 28:45, but then, like, my legs fell down, like, kind of crumbled down under me, and it felt like a marathon wall, not like my aerobic capacity that was going full on. And, you know, like, I wasn't way over my head in my aerobic capacity. It was just like my legs kind of crumbled. And he was like, yeah, well, it seems like you underfueled. Like, what did you eat during the day? And next thing you know, not racing for a year and tackling a completely new distance. I kind of had the pre-race butterflies. I had good lunch 5 hours before, but I really wasn't hungry enough to eat any snacks before the race or anything at all. And, you know, as stupid as it may seem, I could have run at 1,500 meters off of that. But then at the end of the day, for 10K, I was probably 500 calories short in the intake I should have taken in a day. And 500 calories is basically the last K of a 10K. So Trent was like, there you go, like, so make sure you don't make the same mistake for the 5K in 2 weeks. But so that's how I kind of feel about that race. I feel like I should have been with the guys up front, and it really was just a routine mistake on my part in terms of nutrition that kind of cost me that, like a painful last K that I barely made it through the line.
Oh man, but I mean, like, listening to that answer, it sounds like you took the steps and you asked the important questions, and you had the resources, at your fingertips where you could ask those people. Is that something that comes with maturation and time in the sport? Like, do you think that you always would have reached out to Trent after a race like that to figure out what went wrong, or is that something that's come with time?
Well, I think in the current scenario where, I haven't raced in a year, nobody's racing because of COVID, and like I'm 2 weeks away from a 5K. That's really the important event of my year, and I don't have anything in between to really boost my, my ego or my confidence. Like as silly as it may seem, like you really want to have a good confidence coming into an important race. I kind of thought the workouts leading up to the 10K went so well. Like there was no way I was worth 28:45, and I need to dig and make sure I can find what happened so I can tackle the 5K and feel good about it, feel good coming into the 5K rather than being so angry at that 10K. And I'm not going to lie, after that 10K, I did not sleep. Like, I couldn't go to sleep because I was so angry at what happened. Like, to me, it was impossible that I would run that slow. So, it goes to show, how I was driven to try to find what happened. And, if you go back 5 or 6 or 7 years and you're in college and you're racing every weekend, like, what's a bad race really? You just brush it off. You're going to race the next weekend and it's not going to be a big deal. But now, it's my first race in a year, and there's an even more important race coming up. There's a lot at stakes. I really needed to find out what happened, and that's I kind of guess that's what kind of fueled this will of reaching out to professionals to really try to gather the information and come down to a conclusion as to what happened.
I won't lie to you. As soon as I heard that you were running that race, I got super, super excited. Not only because, there'd be a race that we could follow along with it and watch and stuff, but it seems like there is something that is very special that happens whenever you're training with those BC boys. Whenever you end up out in BC, you mentioned that you did a couple weeks out there. What are the plans? Are you gonna head back out there and train with Luke and Justin? And man, shout out to all those BC guys right now. They are doing fantastic. Any plans to spend some time out there?
Absolutely. I'm headed there on Monday. Gonna spend. Fortunately, going to spend Christmas far away from my family for the first time ever. This is kind of heartbreaking, but I know that it's just not safe with COVID to go back to Quebec. And things are going so well right now with my running that, I want to keep that streak going. And every year I go back to Quebec, I tend to run in the snow. Things get slippery. I get injured. I party a bit. You know what? This is not happening this year. I'm just going to BC on Monday and spending Christmas there. And I'm going to get fit with the BC boys. That's what it is. And we actually planned on linking up for a couple of sessions because we did that in the fall. I know that Luke and John and Kieran linked up a couple of times during the summer as well, and everybody's really benefited from that. So it's really what we plan on doing. And you know what? I'm going to add a little story here because I know your listeners are good track fans. So I'm gonna throw some workout porn to you.
Okay.
tell you one of those workouts I did with Luke and John heading into the 10K. We did 5 by a mile of 90 seconds and started at 4:32 average, basically. So we started out at 4:34, 33, 32, 30, and 28. That was off of 90 seconds, and we took 3 minutes, so a lap jog, and we did 4x4, 61 down to 59. And what really struck me with that workout was, out of 10, it probably felt like, a 6. It was really controlled. Everybody was like feeling really good, but also, when you're doing 5 by a mile like that, and you only get to lead once every 2 reps, it helps so much. So that's really the kind of stuff we've been up to, and we're really looking forward to meeting up again in the next few weeks to get that kind of work going.
Oh man, that sounds wow. That sounds that sounds really good. And like once again, huge shout to the BC guys just bringing it this year. It's been really cool to see. But also really cool to see is a lot of your guys, a lot of the Rouge et Or and the post collegiates and stuff there. Talk to me a little bit about those guys, how they're doing and how they're keeping fit. Some of the people to watch there.
Yeah, of course. Jean Simon and Thomas are doing really well. Thomas had a bit of a tough summer with injuries, so that's the typical story of a talented guy. He barely runs of all summer, puts on a couple pounds of weight, and then start training again early in the fall, and there he goes. He runs like 13:57 in December. He's just that type of guy, and whenever he's going to be able to put on a few months back to back and have some good momentum, there's no doubt he's going to be one of the most decorated athletes Quebec will ever produce. And I can say the same from GS. GS has been having a terrific year. He's just, putting the weeks together. I don't think he's never been injured so far. He's just like having the solid training blocks back to back. And I know that Felix is really easy on him in terms of volume because he kind of experimented with guys my age. Back when we were early in university at GS's age, and the volume, you could say, probably crushed some of us, and in the short term made us really fast, but then longer term, some of the guys that had trouble really going after college, and they felt kind of burned out. So I know Felix has had a more easy approach on these guys in terms of volume, but they've been, putting works week after week after week, and I think GS is just a race away from a breakout. I know that he wasn't really happy with his 13:54 in California, unfortunately, and knowing what he's done in training, I know he expected a bit more, but he's definitely on the verge of having a breakout either in the 5K or in the steeple, and it's exciting to watch because he's one of these kids that not only he's incredibly talented, and you can meet people on the street that are talented. We do not lack talent in Canada, but he really has a head on the shoulders, and he's really level-headed and very intelligent with his training and with what he does. Also highly motivated, and I only have good words for him, and I really think he's going to be a force to reckon in the next few years.
All right. Well, going into 2021, nothing is for sure. No plans are really solid. It kind of seems like racing's fairly sporadic at this point. But what are the plans for you? Working into those first couple months of 2021. What's the training going to be? Is there any races on the horizon? What are things looking like?
Okay, so not only am I going to knock on wood, but I think I'm going to hug a tree, because I really need to, every time I had plans and laid out my plans in advance, I had to scratch them because of injuries. So, after this interview, I'm going to go hug a tree. But I do have a lot of plans lined up. And actually, I've got into the Karlsruhe World Indoor Tour in Germany for 3K. So that's late in January. Then I've got into a 1500 in Dortmund early in February, so that's also in Germany. And then I'm going to spend most of February at the Institute of Sport in France, where Jimmy Gressier trains. So he's a high-caliber French guy. I think he ran like 13, 15, and he won 3 times the European Championships in cross-country under 23. I'm going to train with him in February, and then we're going to do an outdoor 5K in south of France. So that would be February 26th. So I've actually got a pretty busy schedule going, and hopefully with the result of the 5K in December I just did, the 3K in Karlsruhe in Germany in January, and then the outdoor 5K in south of France at the end of February. Hopefully with these 3 performances, we're hoping it would be enough to put me in the top 45 and in position to qualify at the Olympics in the 5K. And if that happens, then I can really just focus in the spring in the 1500. So that's really what's in the plans or in the calendar right now. And like I said, I'm going to go hug a tree, make sure I don't jinx myself, but I'm really looking forward to those next few months.
All right. Well, we'll get all of our listeners to collectively knock on wood right now as well too. But man, just watching how everything's gone down this fall with these past couple of races as well too. I'm super excited. I'm super stoked to see what you can turn out, man. And huge thanks for being on. It's always good to catch up with you, man. And thanks for being on the show.
Always good to catch up anytime. And Thanks for calling, giving me a call, and looking forward to the next chat. Hopefully things go well.
Huge thanks to CPT for being on this week's show. And hey, if you like this, be sure to tell a teammate or 2 and follow us on all the major podcatchers, YouTube and Tracky. Trust me, it helps us out a whole bunch. My name is Michael Rokas. This has been The Terminal Mile. And remember, support your local Twilight.